Here in this sanctuary of ancient dreams and wisdom and beauty, we come to be healed, to build a world with more justice and mercy in it, to be counted among the hopers and doers. Here we invite the spirit of our own humanity and the healing powers under, around, through, and beyond it to give us the nerve and grace, the toughness and sensitivity to search out the truth that frees and the life that maketh all things new. From the Reverend Jack Mendelson. My name is Diana Maiden. On this snowy spring morning, Easter, I'm the worship leader for today's service. The Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, UUCB, has been a place of connection, support, and challenge for me for many years. I hope it can be the same for you in these difficult times. If you are a first-time visitor, feel free to email our Congregational Life Director, Beth Elliott, to let us know who you are. Please visit the UUCB website for more information about church activities, especially our new blog, Touchpoint. There's a link posted. And after the service this morning, please stay on the line and join us for our virtual coffee hour to meet and greet our congregation. And now please remain muted and silence cell phones as we enter into worship.
This is the day that has been given to us. It is a day that we could not have created, that we could not have earned. And regardless whether or not we deserve it, this day does come to us. And it comes as a gift from the universe, a gift from God, a gift from life itself. So come and let us worship with gratitude for this and so many gifts, with humility for our shortcomings, and with hope. Hope that we will continue to transform our lives and to transform our world. And with these words, I also welcome you to worship here virtually at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. I am Reverend Eric Posa, interim minister, and I wish you happy Easter, happy Passover, and am so thankful that we have these opportunities to be together virtually. I am particularly thankful that we have a treat we haven't heard since we've been together in physical space. One of our music pieces during worship today will feature several members of our choir. It is good to have them back together singing, even if recording from separate locations to do so. So my thanks to them for that. But I invite us to join together in the spirit of worship, if to rise as you are able and comfortable, and be it in body, be it in spirit, and let us join together in our opening hymn. And that hymn is For the Beauty of the Earth. So I invite you to mute yourselves for now, but let us sing.
For the love which from our
Well, I do invite you, if you have a chalice nearby or a candle, to have it ready to light. I shared last week that we are pleased to have the members of the slate for our ministerial search committee taking turns over the next several weeks sharing the chalice lighting. And I could add that an announcement is going out shortly that the slate has been approved overwhelmingly. So I am pleased to introduce now one of the members of that new ministerial search committee, Laura McGuire. Laura?
Good morning. As Reverend Eric said, my name is Laura McGuire, and I will be part of our ministerial search committee. As a matter of fact, I will be a second-generation search committer. I recall the long hours my mother put in for a search committee at Elliott Unitarian Chapel in St. Louis, the church I attended as a child. I recently asked her about her experience, and she told me that the best part of the search committee was how deeply she got to know the congregation, their values, their worries, and their dreams. I am greatly looking forward to that as well. Already, I've been involved with many aspects of UUCB and gotten to know a wide range of members. I began attending in 2014, shortly after moving to Boulder. UUCB swept me up with open arms and gave me opportunities to get involved in many different ways, including coordinating the young adult group, chairing the racial justice ministry, singing in the choir, volunteering for our sanctuary efforts, serving on the board, and more. Thanks to UUCB, I've had a space to learn, grow, make lasting friendships, sing, think, cry, laugh, and everything in between. I am deeply grateful to this community for all the ways in which it's changed my life. And despite all the changes taking place both at UUCB and in the world, this is the place and you are the people I rely on. I look forward to getting to know this community even better in the year to come. I light this chalice in gratitude for the church and in hope for the future.
And as we light our chalices in our many locations, may the lights that we are sharing illuminate widely the faith that we share. Now, I invite us to join together in a different way as we share our covenant statement. And for this one portion, I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself and let us share it together. Gather in fellowship, to speak truth to each other, reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine.
So
Be it. And I want to share a story now. And it's, well, I'll say two things about the story in advance. The first is that it involves two characters who are 10 years old and best friends. Their names are Rachel and Maria. And the other thing about this story is when it is set. This story happens tonight, a few hours from now. And it begins with Maria saying to her best friend, Rachel, "Ay, Dios mía, Rachel, I wish you could have been here." Well, really, she said that to her computer camera as she looked at Rachel on the screen over Zoom. But Maria went on to say, "It was so boring without you here. I used to love searching for Easter eggs, but it's just no fun when it's just me. Well, me and my little brother. It would have been so good to have you and some other people here. You know, you just don't enjoy the competition that much. There's nothing to compete for." After a couple of minutes, I finally gave up and started helping my little brother. And, you know, I was okay, but it's just not the same. And Rachel replied, wow, I really know what you mean. I mean, it's kind of like how it was for me the other night at the Seder dinner that our family had. You weren't here, none of my cousins were here. I had to search for the afikomen by myself. And where's the fun in that? Oh yeah, Maria replied, that does sound like it wouldn't be much fun. Yeah, and besides, it is just a cracker, Rachel added. The fun's in finding it and beating everyone else, as you know, because you got it last year. Yeah, I totally beat all of you, Maria smiled and said, and Rachel just rolled her eyes and goes, yes, the only Gentile there found the afikomen, whatever. But, you know, I'm just so tired of us not being able to be in the same spot. I mean, I'm glad nobody I know is sick, but I'm so tired of this. Then Rachel got kind of thoughtful for a second and she said, but you know, it kind of reminds me of something that Rabbi Leah said during Shabbat service the night before last. She was talking about how in this time of Passover, we're so used to talking about, hey, we're free and we've escaped slavery in Egypt. And we're not feeling very free right now. We're all having to stay in our homes. And Maria goes, yeah, actually, Pedro Miguel, or Padre Miguel said much the same thing at Mass this morning. He was talking about how Jesus came out of the tomb and the tomb is empty, but our own tombs aren't empty yet. But he kept talking about how this is like, he called it a promise. He said that they were going to be, and it's still good to celebrate Easter and resurrection and all that because it was going to be. I mean, I guess he's got a point, but I don't know. And Rachel said, yeah, Rabbi Leah said something like that. She was talking about how we may not feel the freedom yet, but we can think about how it's coming. I don't know. I guess it's coming again, but it sure doesn't feel like it right now. Yeah, it's kind of boring right now, Maria added. And I really miss you. I'm missing you too, Rachel said. And Maria was just about to say something else when off in the background, she heard a loud voice yelling, Maria Cristina Garcia Lopez, you get down here and join us for Easter dinner right now. And Maria said, oh no, she used all 4 of my names. And Rachel said, yeah, you gotta go. Go enjoy your Easter ham. And she said, I will. Go enjoy, well, whatever you have for your meal tonight. I guess it won't be ham, will it? Oh, give me a break, Rachel said. And that's the story. And while the details of the story are going to be different for different people, there are probably lots of conversations like this happening in these days and today. But they are reminders to us that across our differences and across the distance that we're experiencing now in this time of orders to stay at home, there are still ways to connect and to find the commonalities among our differences. And I'll say more about that in just a few minutes. But for now, let us join together once again in song.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine.
we share with one another as we worship together. I invite us to join together in this different kind of sharing as we are gathered together in this virtual space for worship, sharing still the blessings and the concerns that we carry with us, the life transitions that may have impacted us in recent days. We, of course, lift up so many people who have been affected by this virus and acknowledge the impact on some of us as we begin to hear of people who we may not have known personally, but whose lives impacted us in different ways, whose lives have come to their end as a result of this virus. I certainly find myself thinking of a few musicians well known in this time, Bill Withers, who passed away, who is, among many other accomplishments, the author of one of the hymns in our Teal hymnal, Lean on Me, and two other musicians that I've had the privilege of seeing personally in concert, the great jazz pianist Ellis Marsalis and the wonderful singer-songwriter John Prine, who passed away a couple days ago. We know that there are many concerns and many blessings that we're bringing together today. And let us take advantage of our technology to express those. I invite you to open the chat function on Zoom. It's found near the bottom of your screen for most of you. And in that chat box, type the word blessing if you have one, the word concern if you have one of those, perhaps both. We don't quite have time to share details, but if your blessing or concern involves another person or other people, we briefly type who they are as well. And by this symbolic sharing, may we lessen the impact of our concerns and amplify the joys of our blessings. Let us now share. For all these blessings and all these concerns, we offer our prayerful thoughts and our support as a caring community of faith.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor and a joy to be with you this morning. As we settle in for our meditation today, I would like you to know that this is an adaptation of the Aramaic translation of the words of Jesus. It's my own adaptation. So settle into comfortable seat. Maybe your eyes are closed, maybe they're open. With your feet on the floor, allow yourself through your breath, through your heartbeat, to feel the connection to all of life, the quickening of life that comes with spring. The very first spark of life, whose existence came from love and has continued on ever since. Further back than any of us know, and it is still a part of you in every breath you take and in every beating of your heart. May we each feel this spark continuing within us. And may gratitude for being alive harmonize our very beings with this precious gift of life, both within us and all around us. Light of love and the source of all, may we deepen in knowing this unity of life. O cosmos, focus your light within us and make it useful through the fire in our hearts and the willingness of our hands. May we be guided by the wisdom and insight of this unity as we tune and align ourselves to all of life, of which we are one expression. Grant what we need in each day, in bread and in insight, substance for the calling of growing life, and loosen the cords of mistakes that bind us as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. Don't let us enter into forgetfulness, but free us from all that is unripe. From you is born all the will within each of us and the power that we each have. The song that beautifies all from age to age. It renews all of life. Truly, power to these statements. May they be the ground from which all our actions grow, sealed in trust and faith. Amen.
This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well.
We have two readings to share today to acknowledge the two different holiday seasons that are coinciding, as they often do on this weekend. Both of the readings are by Unitarian Universalist authors. This first, by the late Reverend Bruce Clary, is entitled The Easter Nonsense. He writes, Easter makes no rational, logical sense at all. The resurrection, Christ the Lord is risen today, makes no sense. The concept of eternal life wins few converts from us moderns. So why do we celebrate Easter? Precisely because Easter makes no sense. And because it makes no sense, we learn something. We need it deep down for the good of our souls. Something in us urges us to believe that the sacrifices of love and works endure beyond the grave. Something in us urges us to hope our children will benefit from our worries and tears, our strivings and givings for them. Something in us urges that we and they shall be triumphant over our worldly fears. It's like the soft word of comfort, no matter how clumsy, offered to one in deep grief. Suddenly there is the unexplained, irrational affirmation of life that wipes away all ugliness, gloom, and despair. In whatever moment, it is known that life conquers death. It is always insistent and urgent. Life well received, well lived, well given, well remembered. This is life no death can destroy. And that, my friends, is the life eternal. That is Easter, and it makes sense after all.
This poem, written several years ago by the UU minister, the Reverend Lynn Unger, is entitled Passover. It begins with this epigraph from Jewish scripture found in chapter 12 of Exodus. Then you shall take some of the blood and put it on the doorposts and the lintels of the houses. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and no plague shall fall upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. From Exodus 12 and 13. They thought they were safe that spring night when they daubed doorways with sacrificial blood. To be sure, the angel of death passed over. But for what? 40 years in the desert, without a home, without a bed, following new laws to an unknown land. Easier to have died in Egypt or stayed there a slave, pretending there was safety in the old familiar. But the promise from those first naked days outside the garden is that there is no safety, only the terrible blessing of the journey. You were born through a doorway marked in blood. We are, all of us, passed over, brushed in the night by terrible wings. Ask that fierce presence whose imagination you hold. God did not promise that we shall live, but that we might, at last, glimpse the stars brilliant in the desert sky.
It could feel pretty awkward to think of such a liberation. It's a reminder to us that we have so much that has changed so suddenly and so dramatically. I saw a meme online a couple of days ago that suggested that this Passover might be the most authentic Passover any of us have ever experienced, in addition to the quite literal plague that many of us are working so hard to avoid, and some others have already been forced to live with directly. We even have, at this time in Africa, a plague of locusts. There is an actual locust plague infesting many parts of the African continent this week. And the idea that this can be the beginning of liberation, well, it's a hard idea to imagine. But I, for one, think about the words of my colleague, Reverend Lynn Unger, that idea that there is a terrible blessing of the journey. Certainly speaks to me in these days. And it reminds me that even though I may not, as young Rachel's rabbi suggested in the story earlier, I may not feel free during this time when we celebrate freedom. I may not feel free in this moment, but I can be reminded that a kind of freedom is coming, even though it may not look like what we're used to. And I also think about the message of Easter. And I'm not so much talking about Jesus here, but this idea that resurrection happens, that resurrection can be an experience in our lives, does resonate with me on a deeper level, though certainly not for today. But when we separate out all of the specifics of the narrative and look at this theme broadly, the idea of resurrection, I think, speaks to us in a meaningful, if metaphorical way. We talk so much about what it's like for the seasons to renew, for the earth to bloom again with the coming of spring, though that's even harder to say today with the snow on the ground than I had expected, I confess. But the resurrection idea is different. The message that life renews on its constant cycles, like the cycles of the season, that's an important lesson, relevant in many cases. But the idea of resurrection is not about constant renewal. It's about the unexpected renewal. It's about the ways that our lives can find something returning to them when we wouldn't expect it would happen. My wife and I, when we lived in Texas, this season of late March, early April was generally the peak of the wildflower season in that state. And often on Easter Sunday, after worship would conclude, we would go out for a drive in the country and look at the wildflowers. Obviously, we'll not be doing that today for multiple reasons. But that's the story of eternal return, of ongoing cyclical return. The message of resurrection is that even the year when there was a drought for several months in the part of Texas where I lived at the time, and we thought that there was going to be almost no wildflowers. Not only did they bloom, but they bloomed early that year. It's the surprising return that captures our imagination. We've been reflecting on our new mission statement and the various aspects of it over the last few weeks. And the final aspect is the call to always love. It is harder, certainly unfamiliar, to express love in the ways we're used to when we're all in our separate locations and almost never seeing each other in person, perhaps only across video screens as we're doing now. But there is a genuine hope for a renewal to come, and for love and its expressions to return to us in new ways. Maybe not today, but that the time is coming. And this may not feel like a time for singing the traditional alleluias that are so often sung on Easter Sunday. But in anticipation of the time of resurrected love and direct presence with one another to return to our lives, we're going to take the opportunity for our closing hymn to sing a hymn which, yes, speaks of cyclical return, but it also lifts up alleluias and gives us a chance to sing our own anticipatory alleluias in hopes that we find a surprising return in our lives as well. So may it be for us all. Amen.
During this season of not meeting in the same physical space, we nonetheless continue our ministries, including new online ministries described on our church's website and new blog. We continue to welcome offering donations, now through online giving, as well as checks mailed to the church. The link for UUCB's online contributions page has just been added as a comment on this online post and can also be found on the UUCB webpage. We especially welcome you to set up monthly online payments, as our church pays no fees for recurring payments. We also continue to support our nonprofit community partners in our Share the Plate program. In April, we split our offering plate with the local nonprofit SPAN, also known as Safe House. Safe House Progressive Alliance for Nonviolence, or SPAN, is a human rights organization that supports and advocates for the survivors of domestic violence. This is an incredibly dangerous time for survivors. For many, home is not a safe place to be, and abusers are using COVID-19 epidemic to further isolation, financial abuse, and control over their partner. For our housing clients that are in safe housing, SPAN Executive Director Ann Tapp says, "We are very concerned about these families because they live on the edge of poverty anyway, and several have lost their jobs and income. No matter how any of our clients are engaged with SPAN, it is a challenging time for all survivors. We are grateful for your support. May we be as generous as we can." We will now receive the offering. Sharing our time, gifts, and money is a way that we offer gratitude for this church and our Boulder community. Thank you for sharing. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, "Lo, the Earth Awakes Again." Words will be on the screen following this brief introduction by our music director, Deborah Hammond.
Join your people, Lord, and
And so as we go forth from this sacred time and these many sacred places, as we extinguish the flames in our many chalices, may we go forth knowing ourselves to be graced with the blessings of freedom and wholeness. For while our worship now ends, our service begins anew. Let us go forth and serve in new ways this hurting world in the spirit of love. Go in peace.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
We invite